This was not supposed to be like this. I was a software engineer, making six figures before most guys my age knew what they wanted to do with their lives. Top of my class, athletic. I was lifting 5 days a week, running on weekends. By every standard I had been taught to care about, I was winning. And I genuinely believed that was enough. I believed that if you built the right resume, academically, professionally, physically, the rest of life would follow, including women. So I downloaded Tinder, set up the profile, added my best photos, listed my job. 1 week later, 1 like, not 10, not 5, 1. And I remember just staring at that number and not feeling angry. I felt confused because nothing in my mental model explained it. I had done everything right. I had checked every box that my parents, my teachers, my culture had ever pointed at and said, "This is what a successful man looks like," and none of it translated. So I did what I do with every hard problem. I studied it. I started cold approaching. Hundreds of conversations, then thousands dates. I read everything I could find. I paid attention to what worked and what did not. I tracked patterns. I made mistakes, figured out why they were mistakes, and adjusted. I did this for years. And the results changed. Completely. 20 girlfriends since then. Most of them white. And not the demographic people assume when they hear that. Not K-pop fans, not guys who fetishize a look. I'm talking about the homecoming queen type. The girl every guy in the room was watching. The ones that guys in my position were told, sometimes explicitly and sometimes just culturally, were not for us. Here's what I learned. It was never about my height. It was never about my face. It was never fundamentally about my race. It was about a specific cluster of conditioned behaviors, mindset patterns, presentation habits, social tendencies, things that were so deeply baked into how I carried myself that I did not even know they were there. And almost every Asian man I have talked to, coached, or watched navigate Western dating has the same invisible stack working against him. That is what this video is about. We are going to move through 4 layers. Your internal frame, how you actually see yourself and your worth. Your external presentation, what you communicate before you say a word. Your social behavior, how you move, talk, lead, and hold tension. And finally, romantic consequences. How all of this either compounds into consistent attraction or consistent failure. Each layer feeds the next. Fix the deeper ones, and the surface ones get easier. Ignore them, and no amount of technique fixes anything. Let's start at the root. The single biggest mindset trap for high-achieving Asian men is what I call the achievement transfer assumption. The belief that what made you valuable in school, in your career, in your family's eyes, automatically transfers into attraction. That your credentials speak for you. That your income is foreplay. That a woman should recognize your value because your LinkedIn is impressive. Here is the problem. Western dating does not work like an Asian parent's approval checklist. The things that earned you praise growing up, academic performance, professional status, obedience, restraint, humility, being the good son, are not the things that generate attraction. Not because those things are bad, but because attraction runs on a completely different signal set. Women are not interviewing you for a job. They are not checking your resume. They are reading your energy, your presence, your confidence, your social freedom. And if the only currency you know how to spend is achievement currency, you will keep walking into rooms full of the wrong vending machines. The guy who shows up on a date and manages to work in his job title, his salary range, and his 5-year plan within the first 20 minutes, that guy is not impressing her. He is performing for a panel that is not there. She is sitting across from him, wondering why she feels nothing, even though he looks great on paper. The correction is not to hide your success. It is to stop leading with it as your core source of worth. Confidence is not, "I have achieved impressive things." Confidence is, "I am worth your time, and I already know it." Those are different energies. One is seeking validation. The other does not need it. But the achievement trap is only the first layer. Underneath it, something older is running. Most Asian men growing up in Western culture absorbed a very specific social education, and a lot of it was about taking up less space. The jokes, the media, the social dynamics in school where being Asian meant being seen a certain way: studious, quiet, harmless, non-threatening. Maybe your parents reinforced this with values about restraint, humility, not causing trouble. Maybe you just learned early that keeping your head down was safe. And now, 20 years later, that conditioning shows up in your body language, in the way you enter a room, the way you laugh a little too quickly when something is not that funny, the way you over-explain your intentions before making any move, as if you need to pre-apologize for existing, the way you shrink slightly in group settings, letting louder personalities take the social oxygen while you wait your turn, which never comes. This is not about race. This is about psychology. Specifically, it is about learned smallness. And the brutal truth is that attraction is, at a very fundamental level, about presence. A man who takes up space, not aggressively, but naturally, as if he belongs exactly where he is, reads completely differently than a man who apologizes for existing. Women feel this before you open your mouth. Before the conversation even starts, they have already read your body language, your posture, your eye contact, the way you moved through the space. And if what they are reading is uncertainty, hesitation, and smallness, the conversation is already uphill. The work here is not about becoming someone else. It is about unlearning a specific set of habits that were useful once and are now costing you. Slow your movements down. Take up physical space. Make eye contact and hold it a beat longer than feels comfortable. Stop explaining yourself before anyone asked. These are small things. Their cumulative effect is enormous. Now, the third layer of the internal to external stack. A lot of high-achieving Asian men are remarkably well put together in every domain, except how they look. And I say that not as an insult, but as an observation with a clear cause. You were rewarded for your brain. Your parents celebrated your grades, not your style. Your cultural environment probably did not emphasize fashion, grooming, or physical presentation as anything more than vanity. So, you show up in generic-fitting clothes, a haircut that has not changed since college, shoes that work fine functionally, and a gym body that is hidden under a shirt that fits like a grocery bag. Here's the thing. Presentation is not vanity. It is communication. Before you say anything, how you look is already sending a message. And the message you want to send is, I am intentional. I pay attention to detail. I take care of myself. I live in the present, not in the version of me that existed at 22. This matters even more for Asian men specifically, because the stereotypes working against you are largely about being seen as non-sexual, non-dominant, non-presence. Good style does not fix stereotypes by itself, but bad style confirms them before you get a single chance to disrupt them. You do not need to be a model. You need to look like a man who gives a damn. Fitted clothes, clean shoes, a haircut that suits your face, skin that is taken care of. They are just often the last thing a high achiever bothers with, because nobody ever told him it was part of the game. Now we move into how you actually behave once you are in a social or romantic situation. And this is where a lot of men who have fixed their mindset and their presentation still keep losing. The nice guy pattern. And I want to be precise about what I mean here, because nice guy has been diluted into a vague insult. What I am actually talking about is a very specific behavioral mode, being overly agreeable, overly accommodating, and overly logical in interactions with women you are attracted to. You show up to a date having already mentally decided that your job is to make her comfortable. So you agree with everything. You validate every opinion. When she says something you actually disagree with, you either stay quiet or you pivot to agreement to avoid friction. You bring her water, you hold every door, you respond to every text within 4 minutes. You apologize if she seems even slightly off. You are, in every behavioral sense, auditioning for her approval. And the result is not appreciation. The result is that she feels no resistance, no challenge, no polarity. You are a flat surface, and flat surfaces are not interesting. Worse, the subtext of that behavior is, I do not believe I am your equal. I am performing for you. I am hoping you will decide I am enough. She picks that up. She does not think it through consciously. She just stops feeling attracted. Kindness is not the problem. Kindness without backbone is the problem. The men who are most attractive are not cold or withholding. They are warm and grounded. They are genuinely interested without being desperate. They disagree without apologizing for it. They lead without asking for permission to lead. That combination, warmth plus self-possession, is what creates genuine chemistry. Related to this, and possibly even more damaging in practice, is approval-seeking energy in conversation. This one is subtle. It shows up in hedging, in the way you frame everything as a tentative suggestion, in the nervous laugh that fires before the punchline lands, signaling that you are already pre-apologizing for the joke, in the way you change your opinion the moment you sense she does not share it, in the constant verbal check-ins. I don't know. Maybe that's weird, that are really just disguised requests for reassurance. The frame underneath all of this is, I need your approval to feel okay about what I just said. And that frame is lethal to attraction. Not because women want you to be cold or dismissive, but because a man who needs validation from the person he is trying to attract has already handed over his power. She has to carry both her desire and your confidence. That is exhausting, and it kills whatever interest was building. The correction is to own your perspective. Say what you think. Make the joke without telegraphing anxiety. If she does not laugh, let it land flat and move on without collapse. Disagree with genuine non-defensive calm. These behaviors signal that you are comfortable in your own skin, regardless of her reaction. That signal is what makes a man feel safe to be attracted to. Now we go one layer deeper. Hesitation. There is a very specific pattern I have watched destroy otherwise promising interactions for Asian men, over and over. The energy is there. She is laughing, leaning in, holding eye contact a beat too long. And he waits. He is waiting for a clearer signal, waiting to be sure, waiting until he is absolutely certain she wants him to move, before he moves. And the window closes. Attraction is not a patient thing. The energy of a conversation, a date, a moment, it has a momentum. When you feel the pull and you hesitate, she does not think how considerate. She feels the energy drop. And often she interprets the hesitation not as caution, but as disinterest, or worse, as fear. Neither of those is attractive. I want to be clear. Moving with intent is not the same as ignoring her comfort or her signals. Consent is not complicated. Reading genuine interest versus politeness is a learnable skill. What I am talking about is the paralysis that happens when a man is reading clear interest and still cannot bring himself to act on it because he is afraid of being wrong, afraid of rejection, afraid of being perceived as too forward. That fear is the thing you have to address, because the man who acts on genuine interest, calmly and directly, gets a completely different response than the man who waits so long the moment evaporates. And before we leave social behavior, there is one more variable that most Asian men chronically underestimate: environment. If you are grinding dating apps and getting mediocre results, the problem might not only be your profile or your messages. The architecture of online dating disadvantages men in ways that cold approach and real-world social circles do not. On an app, you are a photo and a bio. There is no energy, no voice, no presence, no social proof. Everything that makes you compelling in person is absent. Meanwhile, in the right real-world environment, a social hobby, a nightlife scene that fits your style, a fitness community, a city with a culture that suits you, you are a full human being. People see you in context. They see how you move, how you interact, how others respond to you. Your personality is visible. Your energy is visible. The version of you that is compelling can actually exist. It means stop treating apps as your primary or only strategy and start building a social life that creates real-world visibility. Your results will change. Now we get to the part most guys skip because it requires a different kind of honesty. Scarcity mindset. When you feel like your dating options are limited, either because of your own internal doubt or because of actual limited experience, something happens to your behavior. Any woman who shows interest becomes precious. You start to overinvest early. You text back immediately every single time. You make yourself available at any hour. You suppress your standards because you are afraid that if you show them, she will leave, and your options feel too thin to lose her. You start pedestalizing. And here is what pedestalizing actually does. It signals to her that you do not have options, that she is exceptional, and you are ordinary. And in one of dating's cruelest ironies, the men who treat women like they are hard to find get treated like they are easy to lose. The men who carry themselves as though they have options, real or being actively built, get treated with significantly more effort and interest. The guy who lands the high-value woman is not the guy who wants her most. It is the guy who can genuinely walk away, not as a tactic, not as a game, but because he has standards, and she either meets them or she does not. This means you have to build your options deliberately. More social interactions, broader social environments, active investment in your physical and social life. Not just to manipulate perceived scarcity, but because a man with a full life, real standards, and genuine alternatives is actually more attractive than a man whose entire romantic hope is pinned on one woman who is barely showing up. And then there is environment itself, not as a scarcity hack, but as a strategic reality. Not every city, social scene, or dating pool is equally accessible or viable for you. Some environments are actively hostile to what you bring. Some are neutral. Some will genuinely meet you where you are. This is not defeatism. This is geography and sociology. If you are in a small, homogeneous city where you are consistently an outsider in the social fabric, moving to a major metro is not giving up. If you are in a social circle where you are invisible, building a new one is not surrender. Men who get great results in dating almost always have environments that work for them, not just behaviors. Your social context is a variable you can change. Treat it like one. Now let me zoom out to the real conclusion underneath all of this. Here is what I want you to understand clearly. The reason Asian men struggle in Western dating is not biology. It is not height. It is not facial structure. There is no fixed genetic ceiling working against you. I know this because I have lived the data personally, and I have watched other men live it too. The actual reason is a specific and identifiable cluster of conditioned patterns. Patterns that were installed by culture, family, media, and years of social feedback. Patterns that made perfect sense in the environments where they were rewarded, and that quietly destroy you in a dating context that operates on completely different rules. The achievement trap, the internalized smallness, the neglected presentation, the nice guy overcompensation, the approval-seeking energy, the escalation paralysis, the scarcity-driven pedestalizing, the wrong environment. These are not character flaws, they are learned behaviors. And learned behaviors can be unlearned. You are not behind because you are Asian. You are behind because you were handed software designed for a different operating system, and nobody told you to update it. You have been running a program that was never built for this game. Now you know what the game actually is. And the last thing I will say is this. Not every bad outcome is fixable through technique. Some of it is about the women you are choosing. Some of it is about incompatibility you are ignoring because scarcity has warped your judgment. Some of it is about environments you refuse to leave. Fixing your behavior is necessary, but pairing good behavior with high standards and the right environment is what actually changes your life.